Welcome to the Pandemonium Witches podcast, where the ADHD has just a touch of the tism, where the true crime is just as scary as the hauntings and unsolved cases, and the hosts never stay on topic for long. I'm Kat.
I'm Rachel.
I'm Em. And I'm Meg.
We are the Pandemonium. Good morning.
Good morning.
Buenos dias. It's every time. I can't help it now.
Rachel has a new mug.
Where did you get that?
Etsy.
Oh my gosh. Can I see the words again? After you take a life-satisfying sip. Oh, that's perfect. That's perfect. I love it. Well done. I have a mug that is not special.
It took a little bit longer than I wanted to get here because it was coming from the UK and tariffs.
Mm-hmm. But also, I love it. And we love supporting small business, so.
Yes. And so they were really great. I was like, hey, I messaged them and I was like, hey, it's showing that it should have been delivered. I was just wondering if I could get an update. And they're like, we're so sorry. Everything's just delayed right now trying to import to the US because of the tariffs. We're really sorry. As soon as it gets on its way, we will send you your tracking number and everything. And hopefully we'll get it to you soon. And I was like, okay, thanks so much. And then as soon as it left them, they sent me that tracking number. As soon as it hit the US, they sent me that tracking number. And then they're like, it should be delivered on this date. Hope you enjoy it. And we're just top notch. And I was just like, yes, love it when they go over the top.
We love that. I'm still waiting on some bookish things I ordered from Canada, and apparently we're having the same issue.
Yeah, all the countries are to the US right now.
Indeed.
I mean, one of my friends, she lives... Ooh, hold on. I had to move my mic, so it was literally in front of me and not off to the side. I'm dumb. One of my friends lives a little close to Canada, and she drives for a company out there for a local seller, and she'll just literally drive to the US to drop it off so she doesn't have to pay a buttload of taxes. Because that's essentially what it is a metric butt ton. Also, a buttload is an actual unit of measurement, people.
And a good one.
Yes, it was normally used to describe wine.
I don't know that I'd want a buttload of wine. I feel like a buttload of other things would be better, but I don't know that a buttload of wine is how I want to describe my wine. Like a cask feels better. A vat? It's a vat of wine. See?
Also, a pinch and a dash are legitimate measuring terms as well.
They are. I don't know what they mean, but they are.
Do you want to know what the actual the unit of measurement description is?
Sure. It'd be like a horse butt of wine or something. I don't know.
All right. So a buttload is a historical unit of liquid measurement that equals 2 hogsheads, with one hogshead holding 63 imperial gallons, making a buttload approximately 126 imperial gallons, or about 477 liters. This measurement was used in medieval England to quantify large quantities of liquids of wine and ale stored in large casks called butts, B-U-T-T-S, and the term still persists today as informal slang for a large amount of something, i.e., that's a buttload of cookies.
Missed opportunity to use a real butt. I was so close. But also, a buttload is better than head load of wine. I don't think I like the way that feels.
I saw the confusion on your face as soon as she said hogshead. You're like, wait, that's another term I don't understand.
I was like, that's so very close to what I thought and so not close at the same time. But I'm still going to continue to use buttload.
We have an update on the podcast, but before we do that, I ended up reaching out to you and Sylvia about the book, and Sylvia got back to me, and then I ended up talking to my friend Cassie about it, and she's like, That's gut wrenching. And I was like, perfect. That's exactly what I want. And I was like, I can't let Meg know that because I know for a fact, since you've read book 1, you'll read books 2 and 3. You just haven't gotten there yet. I'm sorry, book 4 is going to demolish you. But I'm not sorry.
Great, because these podcasts don't already do that willingly. I willingly submit myself to these endeavors.
I still don't know why.
It's probably something for a therapist to figure out. We could pay somebody for that.
Would you like to know the measurements of a pinch and a dash and a smidgen?
Yes, I would, because to me, they are synonymous.
So a pinch is considered to be 1/16 of a teaspoon. A dash is technically a larger quantity than a pinch, often around 1/8 of a teaspoon. And a smidgen is an even smaller amount than a dash, around 1/32 of a teaspoon. I think I said those measurements right.
So it's dash, pinch, smidgen in order of size, biggest to smallest. Got it. Perfect.
Do you guys have your hydration station set up?
I do.
I
and I've
have
taken my
2
meds.
today.
You have 2, Meg? Oh. Is one water and one caffeine or tea?
Well, technically, one is water with caffeine. I do like the water enhancers. That's got like a little bit of energy in them, so I do that instead. And this one is apple cider because it felt cozy today.
That's what I need to do. I need to go get apple cider.
It's
Fun
only
fact.
fitting.
Right. Fun fact, every October 1st, my grandmother sends, and has done this for years, she sends a package to all of the grandkids' houses and my mother. It usually has a bag of ginger snap cookies. It has $5 for to go grab apple cider because it's hard to send liquid through the mail, and it usually has a peanut and candy corn mixture in it, and then a little note. October 1st every year.
For first every year, I would get these little jam cookies for my grandmother. And they were the jam that she got from her garden during the summer. And she made me a pumpkin spice one time. And they're the Italian jam cookies, the ones I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And my cousin got so mad because she's just like, no, that was my special thing with her. And I was like, I hate to tell you, it was me she started it with.
It's special for all of us.
It is special for all of us.
Dogging on the special. Don't take it from anybody. Rude.
If if anybody wanted to send me cider, not Rachel, looking at you, you can. We still have our wish lists on our Amazon, on our individual Instagrams. However, we have some exciting news about our podcast.
I like excitement.
So we're making a new logo for next season, which is huge,
Getting a facelift or a new face. Either way, however you want to look at it.
We have 111 followers on Instagram, which is great. 73 followers on our Facebook page. And as far as our group, I think last I checked, it was 110. Let me check. 110. So we're still doing pretty good. No new comments, no new nothing yet. But so far, October is almost all the way done. Who has today's topic?
That would be moi. You get to listen to my voice today. And I will say there's a slight theme that will continue the butt discussion. Just slight. There will be a butt mention later, which is important to the story.
Is it a haunted butt?
That's what I was going to ask.
God, I hope not, because that seems like a living problem. No, I don't think so. Oh, but unrelated, did you know that this is a creepy fact I found out? You can save somebody's tattoo after they pass away. There's like a company that does it. Yeah, I didn't know that. I don't want to know that. I don't need that. I have way too many.
But I get it.
Don't save mine.
Did you know the New Jersey Pier where they have the freak show. I have neuropathy, and sometimes I get cold toes, and I know that they're cold, and if I don't put on socks, I lose my toes. But that's besides.
We weren't talking about saving those. We were talking about saving tattoos. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure you could probably save body parts in jars. I feel like we don't do that
You
anymore, though.
can, you
It
can.
seems antiquated.
My friend has her fallopian tubes in a jar. One of our mutual friends in our friends group. Anyways, there was a guy named Tattoo Terry that was in part of the freak show at the New Jersey Pier. And when he died, they preserved his skin for the freak show. It was in his will.
The will is very boring. And now it probably needs to say things like, please don't save my skin.
No, no, it has to be noted in there to save your skin.
I don't want to do that. But there was a woman who's, unfortunately, she had lost her husband. He had a really beautiful tattoo they wanted to preserve. So they actually talked to somebody who talked to the funeral home and set it all up and did all the things. And so now it's like preserved in a frame that they can put in their house, which I think is lovely by way of memory. I don't even have like animal pelts in my house. I don't know, I need a human one because I feel like a human pelt seems weird. Very Silence of the Lambsy, but appropriate for October.
This is the skin of a caterpillar.
See, I don't want that either. I don't want sparkly vampire skin just hanging out in my house.
Because talk about like sudden migraine onset, like the light hits just right and you're just blinded.
Right? All of a sudden it's burning holes in your china cabinet
Lie.
of my deceased vampire husband. No, thank you.
This is why you always cover crystal balls. If they're near windows, but when you're not using them, because magnifying glasses.
Yeah, I have a small one that's like got a laser cut inside of it. It looks like a moon. It's beautiful, but I actually had it too close to the window at one point and I was like, "Oh, it looks so pretty." And I was like, "That's a fire hazard."
Well, they should
I
have
remember
recognized it before it started.
True.
I remember you had taken a picture for the gram and it was quite beautiful. And then you had covered it right back up. And I was like, yep.
Look, I pay for this house. I don't want to burn it down and pay for it again.
So, speaking of burning down and paying for it again, are we doing a repeat of anything we've already talked about, or is this a new subject?
We are going on a road trip again.
Oh my god!
Road trip?
We're doing a state today, and we're doing a neighbor state. So, because I live in good old Virginia, we're doing West Bygod, Virginia.
West Virginia, Mountain Mama.
And I have something to say about that real quick.
Oh dear.
So Dr. Sister's best friend in geometry class, I think it was American history, literally asked the history teacher, "What happened to East Virginia? Did it just fall off into the ocean? Because there was a West Virginia and a normal Virginia. What happened to East Virginia?" And we don't let her live that down at all.
That's incredibly fair. We also had somebody who went on to become an elementary school teacher who got very confused as to why Alaska was cold if it was so close to Hawaii on the map.
Okay, but that is a legitimate confusion, though, because of the way they do the square maps.
Yes, but it says Canada. It says Canada right there.
To be fair, one of my kids, I love them so much, but sometimes the audacity is just way there, you know?
On sale at Costco, man.
Yeah, 2 for 1 at Kmart. So I ended up, telling her, this is not what you put because she was doing US history for college. And I was going through her homework and stuff like that. And I was like, Alaska isn't an island. I mean, it has islands, part of Alaska. And she goes, no, mom, look at the picture. And she shows me a picture. I go, dear heart, it's above Canada and to the left. And she goes, no, it's off the coast of California, obviously. And I was like, okay, I'm going to show you some photos that are aerial views of actual Earth, and we're going to go through it. And she stopped and she went, oh my God, that's why I failed my geography test. And I was like,
Look, can
Bless her.
confirm I am not good at geography, right? Like if you're like, hey, where's this place that's not here? I'd be like, psh, yeah, I don't know. I I barely remember that like Colorado is 1,700 miles from here. Like that's about all I got. So your girl's a MapQuest fan, right? I'm gonna print that sucker out and take it with me. I have Apple Play now. We're good. It'll show up on the screen. It's fine. And then she talks to me.
so what are some fun things you learned about your neighbor?
Yes. So the nickname of West Virginia is not West by God. That's just what I call it. It is the mountain state. And it is the only state that is completely within the Appalachian Mountain range. And it's Appalachian Mountains, not Appalachian Mountains. People who live there are going to get real mad if you don't call it Appalachian.
You
Okay, listen. In my defense, my mom is from England. Dad's from Ohio, but he doesn't count. But like, mom's parents are British and Rhode Island, who originally came from Sweden. So like, and
I
then
get
I
it.
had a Midwestern speech therapist. So like, the way I pronounce things is not my fault. I try
It
my
is
best.
It is not at all. I actually had this conversation because we went to a wedding 2 weekends ago, and my brother-in-law is from Asheville, and, like, the Appalachia thing is incredibly important. And so we had an entire conversation in the car about how, because I think it was on, like, a sign or something when we were driving into Pennsylvania, and my sister pointed it out and said it incorrectly on purpose so that he would lose his mind. He was driving, so of course, let's go ahead and distract the driver. It's good. But yes, Appalachian mountain region, and it has the highest elevation east of the Mississippi. So there's some gorgeous mountains up there. I've been in them. We took my sister to her bachelorette party. We rented a little mountain house and did wineries for that. It achieved statehood in 1863 as the 35th state, and the population as of 2016 was 1,831,102 individuals. It's not a huge place. Muted.
That's a lot of people for not a big state.
Right? But they're not even like crammed in there. So we go over to Berkeley Springs. Like I used to live very close to the West Virginia border, and we used to go over to Berkeley Springs, where it's also known as Bath, which is where George Washington and his troops wintered. And so they have an entire space that's like that they use. It's where he actually used to bathe, and there are hot springs there and things like that. So you can actually, it's very lovely. They have a great metaphysical shop there too. So
I went there. I went to the hot springs there, and it's quite beautiful because you told me about it after we first met. And I was like, I'm going to have to go there. And I went for a weekend trip and I stayed. It was a little Airbnb and it was so beautiful. It just looked right out over the ridge. It was gorgeous.
it is very pretty. There are parts that I will go to and parts that I will not go to, but that's kind of like every state. The capital is Charleston, and the biggest city is also Charleston. So we're going to get both of those out of the way. The abbreviation is a good old WV, and the state bird is a cardinal, which is funny because that's also the state bird of Virginia. So apparently we just shared that. The state flower is the rhododendron, and the state animal is a black bear. Personal side note, would love to see a black bear in the wild. Not so close that it's going to scare me, but would love to just like see one. Just waiting for my time.
I've seen one in Tahoe. 10 out of 10 would recommend if there is a plate glass window between the two of you. They could not get into the house because all the doors had those safety locks on them, so they couldn't get in. But it was walking around on the porch, and I was there for a girlfriend's bachelorette party. It was just walking, and I was like, brown bear, black bear, brown bear, black bear, black bear, black bear. Okay, we're just going to stay put, not move, because black bears, if you don't move and you just not out obviously out in the wild, but if you're in the house and you don't move, they just kind of leave you alone. Out in the wild, you need to make yourself big and imposing and just be like, leave me the fuck alone. Because they are, anyways, cocaine bear, anyone?
We do get bear visits in Loudoun County sometimes. You'll get videos of someone who's like, oh, here on my Ring camera is a bear. And it just like walks through.
So we have black bears out here, and one shot in mom and dad's house when it's being constructed. It just moseyed in, and it was a pile of poop, and wasn't sure what kind of poop it was. So I sent a picture to my dad, and he went, "That's bear poop," and I was like, "Oh, thanks." And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "By the looks of it, it ain't eating too healthy." And I was like, "No, of course not. It's probably eating garbage." He's like, "Cause that's horrible shit." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm not surprised." But yeah, no, they can get. I can see why Cat confused it with brown bear, black bear, because they're fairly similar in size. But the cubs are still just as adorable.
They're so cute, right? I often get asked, I'm like, can we have one of those? I'm like, no, you cannot have anything that has murder mittens. Thank you. So, little history for you. There is evidence in the way, way long ago, we're talking like 10,500 years ago, where people were living in what is now known as West Virginia. So, thousands of years after that, so we had like prehistoric hominids of some sort. Then we had Native American tribes, Cherokee, Iroquois, Mananak, Marin, Monacan, Nottoway, Shawnee, and the Occaneechi. Oh, and the Tutelo and the Saponi. So when I lived over close to West Virginia, we actually had a little like gas station slash shop thing that was known as Shawnee Springs. And so it had, a picture of the Indian on it and everything like that. It had been there forever because I think it had been like a trading post at one point. There was a lot of Native American influence out right as you get to the border there. West Virginia was originally called Kanawha, which honored its Native American roots, and the state is actually famous for its salt, interestingly enough. So, Native Americans and colonists would actually gather salt for meat preservation, and then also wild buffalo and deer take a really big liking to it as well. So, the favorite pastime of those animals was licking those salt deposits. So, the animals are licking the salt deposits, not the people. They're just collecting it. We don't have a bunch of people just like putting tongue to rock. That would be weird. Just saying, just wanted to make sure that it was clear, Um, and then in the 1600s, the British showed up and ruined everything. And they brought us the French and Indian War in 1765, which lasted until, 1763 to 1765. So, things happened. We were all hunky dory over there, and then things showed up and things happened. So, West Virginia was actually part of Virginia until 1861. That's obviously the Civil War time, and they refused to leave the Union alongside the quote mother state. So West Virginia wanted to stay, and Virginia wanted to secede. So they broke off. In West Virginia is the John Brown Wax Museum in Harpers Ferry, West Virginia. Don't know if you've been. I've been several times. It will always stay in my brain as probably a traumatic event. I don't know. It's very cool. Like wax figures are creepy to me anyways, but going to Harpers Ferry, I went for school. Like it's a field trip in like middle school or high school or something like that. So you go over, do the whole town thing. And as part of it is the John Brown Wax Museum. John Brown was actually an abolitionist. So for those who don't know, he was a very famous abolitionist. And in one of the rooms you go into, because it's a little house, so you walk through and you get all this stuff. In one of the rooms is a man, a wax man, laying on the floor, because you're talking about the shootout and things like that, except the man's chest is rising and falling as if he is breathing.
Keep going. There's deer in the backyard I was about to take pictures of.
Go.
So
chest rising and falling?
Yeah, so as part of the exhibit, like I think you could press a button and kind of like listen to what it sounded like when there was the actual shootout and when John Brown passed. But in one of the exhibits, as you're walking by, the guy's just laying on the floor and his chest is rising and falling, and it is the weirdly creepiest thing. Like the whole museum itself is like it's dark and it's like you're looking in on these pre-made scenes and everything, and they look like real people, and it's all creepy. And then you see this man's chest rising and falling, and then you just kind of run out because you're like, I'm done. That's like the second to last part of the exhibit, and I'm like, you know what? I don't need that anymore. I don't need to see that, but I can clearly see it, and I haven't been there in decades at this point. Decades I've not been there, and I can still see it.
There is a wax museum out in, I think it's Oregon. It might have been Washington. When I was driving, I was being a little philanthropist. I was driving around, and I went to Forks in, I want to say 2008, 2009, and then I went back. But they had the worst wax museum. And one of the kids that I brought with me, it was my ex's kids. We went on a trip, and she looked at me and she went, "Mama," and I went, "Yeah, baby." And she goes, "Can we leave? This stuff is nightmare fuel." And I went, "Okay, baby, we can go."
It is nightmare fuel because you shouldn't make people who look like actual people.
I just sent the photos in the chat. But it's just a little bendier. It's white-tailed, but it's a little pronger. It only has 2 points on it.
It's so sweet.
It's good eating too.
Dad keeps telling me I need to fatten them up and throw stuff out there, and I'm like, no. But also, I need to mow the yard, but it keeps raining. So the yard holds water, so I'm like, can't mow if it's wet.
My guy friend out in Virginia, he puts dewormer in the deer bins. So they put out, they have deer blinds and stuff like that, but he puts dewormer in it, and that way, the deer don't die from, heartworm or anything like that. But then that way he
Also
can actually
wasting disease. Also wasting disease.
Yeah. But this way he can actually sell the deer meat at market. And so I'm like, please make me some jerky. You love me. I'm cute and adorable.
Now give me snacks. Other fun facts that are not snack related. The longest steel arch bridge in the Western Hemisphere is actually the New River Gorge Bridge in Fayetteville, which is pictured on their state quarter.
I do like that bridge.
And also, I like that, like, state quarters. Remember when they did that whole thing where they redid all the state quarters and everything? Like, people were collecting them and stuff like that. It was fun. I collected them for a little while, I think. And it was more of like, oh, if I find one, I'll stick it here. And then I realized I could pay for things with that money and promptly undid that collection. Probably bought some gum. I don't know. A girl like blowing bubbles. What can I say? So, famous West Virginians include author and civil rights activist Pearl S. Buck, the Confederate General Thomas Stonewall Jackson, and pilot Chuck Yeager, who was the first person to break the sound barrier in flight.
That's cool.
Right? I figured I'd grab like one from each realm, the good, the bad, and the pilot. I don't know. The thing is, I don't write these things down. It just comes out of my mouth and it surprises even me. So half the things that we hear on this podcast are a surprise to everyone involved, including the speaker. I make no apologies.
As you shouldn't.
Well, now that we've gotten through the boring stuff, we're going to get into some of the spooky because we're going right into it today. And we're going to start with my favorite dude because we have to. We're going to get it out of the way. We're talking Mothman. Right? We're talking Mothman, Point Pleasant, West Virginia. He is your unfriendly neighborhood cryptid. And he is a humanoid creature where sightings began November 15th, 1966. So not too long ago.
Speaking of Mothman, I'm going to obviously cut it down. Our friend Sydney, Virginia Sydney. I have 4 Sydneys. So Virginia Sydney, not New York Sydney, not California Sydney, not Oregon Sydney, Virginia Sydney. She went to an Airbnb that was Mothman themed.
Indeed. So the sightings began November 15th, 1966. They lasted until December 15th, 1967. So about a year. Funny that it was 15th to 15th. A little weird in my opinion, but who's to say? I was not yet amongst the living. I was but a mere twinkle in an eye somewhere. So the first report to be in print was in the Point Pleasant Register the day after the first sightings, and it was thought to be an out-of-season sandhill crane or a heron. They were like, it's a bird. When I share with you the photo of what they think this thing looks like, it's not a crane or a heron. It's not. Right? Oh God, yeah. There's a photo of what we'll get to. So Roger and Linda Scarberry and Steve and Mary Millette told the police that they had seen a large black creature whose eyes glowed red standing at the side of the road near the TNT area, which was the site of a former World War II munitions plant. Right? So they see this thing sitting on the side of the road. It was described as a slender, muscular man about 7 feet tall with white wings. I've never seen a heron that looks like that, frankly. Especially to be I don't know, described as a muscular man. I don't know about you, but birds and men do not look the same in my eyes. Maybe it's just me. Even
Maybe
the
it was
Fae.
molting.
Who knows? It's possible. So, however, she was unable to discern its face due to the hypnotic effect of its eyes. So they freaked out. They drove away. They reported that the creature flew after their car, making a screeching sound. Hate that for everybody. But also, like, what if you were in his territory? Like, get out. Maybe it's mating season. Who knows? But it pursued them as far as the Point Pleasant city limits. So that was one of the first reports. You then have a second report with 2 volunteer firemen who said that what they saw was a large bird with red eyes. So that heron, I can get that, right? I can get heron or crane or something like that. That would make sense to me. And then the Mason County Sheriff, George Johnson, believed the sightings were due to an unusually large heron that he deemed a shitepoke. I don't know what that is. shitepoke. Whatever. Personally, yours truly believes this to be the only cryptid with a dump truck of an ass. I shall share a photo.
There's a statue of Mothman, and literally people have rubbed it so much that the bronze statue is shining.
So I just looked up. Shitepokes are also known as herons. So same thing, different name.
Exactly. They just named it something else. Anyway.
Apparently, herons were given this name because of their habit of defecating when flushed. So when they were shooed out of wherever they were at, they had a habit of shitting everywhere.
Aw, they ink too. What can I say? So there's your photo of the statue, and as Kat said, he's got a shiny butt because people like to come and rub it for luck, because it is definitely, the man did not skip like glute day, apparently, at all. Point Pleasant actually held its first annual Mothman Festival in 2002. So there's an annual festival to honor Mothman. And according to the event organizer, Jeff Wamsley, the average attendance for the Mothman Festival is an estimated 10 to 12,000 people every single year. So for a cryptid, right? For a cryptid festival, that's not terrible. This 12-foot tall metallic statue of the creature was created by artist and sculptor Bob Roach, and it was unveiled in 2003. So they start the festival in 2002. The statue shows up in 2003, and there's also a Mothman Museum and Research Center that opened in 2005. So you can learn all about this, dude. The festival is held on the third weekend of September, hosting guest speakers, vendor exhibits, pancake eating contests, and a hayride tours of locally notable areas.
That sounds amazing.
Right? I don't know what pancakes have to do with Mothman. Maybe they were a fan favorite. Who knows? The thing is, this did not happen very long, right? Like, this was not a thing that like was seen over and over and over again. They were like, hey, there's this huge bird man thing. Let's also create an entire identity around it and keep it going 40 plus years. Well, we're 60 years now? Yeah, over 60 years. So that's our lovely little Mothman. I say little, he's 7 feet tall, so whatever. He can be a little pal if he needs to be. Following on, we have the tunnel tales. So the railroad era. We have Flindration Tunnel, which sounds very West Virginia, if you ask me, on the North Bend Rail Trail, aka the Brandy Gap Tunnel, numero dos. Just as a warning here, it's not super safe to build railroad tracks in tunnels, right? So let's just keep that in mind, that this is a dangerous occupation. I mean, we all do dangerous things, but I'm not one who's going to be like, hey, please offer to have me build a tunnel for you. So even as the railway was being worked on from 1852 to 1857, workers of the Northwestern Virginia Railroad building for the B&O reported strange lights inside the tunnel. Right? So we're already starting out with lights. You know how, like, if you're going to manifest, do it well. None of this light bullshit. Because that could be a firefly.
That's what I was going to say. Most of my research that I was doing on some of the Western and Midwest states, a lot of them were saying, floating lights. Fireflies. There are different fireflies indigenous to different states, but they're roughly around the same type of bug. They're just different types. So.
Also, we are in the mountains. People be making moonshine. So the fire's from that.
Yeah. Also that. Not wrong. You also have the Tommyknockers. I don't know if you know what Tommyknockers are. So Tommyknockers are names that, and they're a scary thing for people who know what they actually mean. It is the name that comes from the pops, knocks, and bangs that miners would hear right before the tunnel walls collapse. So not
We,
great.
we actually covered Tommyknockers last October for Cryptid Month. Rachel did that episode, and we did it knocking caskets. So it's Tommyknockers and Casket Girls.
But go back and listen to that one if you want something more in depth on that one. So there was a reporter from the Sandusky Star Journal who picked up the story about, the weird sounds and the weird lights and things that were coming in 1927. And he wrote about a man who heard voices coming from the tunnel, which is exactly what we want to hear, right? The disembodied voices are my absolute least favorite. He follows the sounds to one of the indentations in the tunnel, which is called a manhole. So those who are walking could escape a train coming down the tracks. It's like a little cutout in the side. So you could be like, boop, boop. So it's like playing hide and seek with your life. So if you don't get to one of those fast enough, you're going to become wall art. He hears something happening in the tunnel. He's expecting somebody to be inside because he's like, I'm clearly hearing voices. There's somebody like chatting in here. He lights a match to peer inside, and there's nobody there, which apparently happens often. And he's like by himself. He's not having a conversation, but he's definitely hearing what sounds like legit conversation, legit voices. But nothing was there. So super fun for everybody involved. There is a small cemetery at the old Enon Baptist Church Cemetery, which is settled into the hillside that's above the tunnel. So don't really love that. What if you cut too far in and all of a sudden you're raining people? Talk about raining men. Just saying. Probably not the best option. But some people attribute those voices to those whose graves lie not far away in the cemetery, as well as an unaliving of the personal type, a suicide along the tracks, and also a railway inspector was killed while he was checking the tunnel. So there are several deaths that have happened, which could lead to people hearing voices, but nobody really knows who they are. Others say that the voice actually comes from, this one is given a name, comes from a worker by the name of Hanley, whose untimely death occurred on a cold winter's day in January 15th, 1853. So the headline just said killed. A man named Hanley was killed at the Brandy Gap Tunnel last Saturday by a quantity of earth falling on him. He was taken to Fairmont on Monday for internment. 2 other men seriously injured, and that's all we know. I can't imagine I don't want to be buried alive accidentally, like you thought I was dead, you stuck me in something. That's why I want you to cremate me, because then we know. But look, we gotta be sure about certain things.
Because if you weren't dead before, by the end of it, you definitely are.
Precisely, that's what I'm saying. I don't want to wake up and be in a box somewhere. Please, no. But also, I don't want to be accidentally covered with earth without knowing and then just have to sit. No, that's terrifying to me.
Did you know that that's why they have mourning rooms and wakes?
Yes, but like I said, if you think I'm gone, let's not wait. Take care of it. I like efficiency. I do. Don't come stare at my prone form. Come on. Come on. I can't suck my tummy in if I'm dead.
But also, that's why they had the bells and the chains attached to some of the coffins in the Victorian times, because so many people were being buried alive.
Right? The night watch has a whole different meaning. So we're on to another tunnel. We already talked about the first tunnel. The second tunnel is the Silver Run Tunnel. And again, you're in a mountainous area, or at least hilly. You're getting up there in elevation. There's going to be plenty of tunnels to get places. So
Was West Virginia just made of tunnels?
they tried to. So, which is probably why we have so many of these stories. There is a legend at the Silver Run Road North Bend Rail Trail, which is, we're going to say apparently a couple of times, a legend about a young woman who haunts the old Baltimore and Ohio track, so that's B&O, just outside the town of Cairo, West Virginia. 1910, a young engineer was making the 169-mile midnight westbound express run along the B&O track, starting in Grafton and heading toward Clarksburg, and then on to Parkersburg. when the engineer came upon a short stretch of railway at the entrance to tunnel number 19. In the light of the moon and headlights, he saw a woman in a pale dress with raven-colored hair and golden slippers walking along the tracks. Horrified that he would hit her, he tried desperately to stop the train by throwing the brakes into the emergency brake. He was like very Polar Express, but with terrible consequences kind of action. He could not stop in time. So the engineer would later report to the watchman at the Smithburg Tunnel, about 36 miles west, that he and a fireman jumped from the train, but the layer of fog on the track seemed to swallow up the pale lady. And so they didn't find her. They didn't find her. They didn't find a body. They didn't find anything. And so the rumors about the ghostly woman made their way through the rail yards, of course, because people talk. Like, we're going place to place. We're going to tell our stories. It's not every day you get to see a raven-haired beauty in gold sandals that you also drove over. And another engineer, his name was O'Flannery, was like, no. He was like, whatever. He was like, if I ever see her, I'm driving directly through her. Your guy is a little intense, I take it. So as such, on another foggy night, which tends to be the case around here, she was on the tracks, as if waiting for the man who did not believe in her story. He was good to his word. He did not stop, and he was quite smug about it until he got to Parkersburg and got the news that telegraphers along the route were reporting a young woman in a pale white gown and golden slippers had been riding his cowcatcher the entire trip. So, apparently, she hung on for the ride. Literally. She was like, you don't believe me? I'm coming aboard. Please, make sure the cabin is ready for me. So for many years after that, railmen would recall seeing the ghostly woman on the tracks and hear her moaning while driving through tunnel number 19. And if that doesn't tell you to get a Walkman and crank that sucker up while you're driving through a tunnel, I don't know what does. Right? Putting on a little, at this point, I'm going like, we built this city in 1980s. Jack that up. Right? That was like my go-to as a kid, was for some reason that song on a cassette where I had to fast forward, get it just right.
Can't remember the name of it, but it was the only cassette that I had because it was my mom's. She wouldn't let me get like New Kids on the Block or anything like that. Oh God, I got my mind set on you. That George Harrison, and it's called "Got My Mind Set on You."
There you go.
There you go.
How ironic that that's the one line you were singing.
The only reason why I remember that is because the music video had talking taxidermied heads on the wall, and I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. Flash forward to 30 years later, I'm obsessed with all things taxidermied and death.
No, thank you. I was actually going to skip this next one, but it seems kind of juicy. So on we go. We've got another tunnel. We're on the Hempfield Tunnel, which is Tunnel Green via Wheeling Dog Park on 17th Street. And it says a ghastly ghost haunts a tunnel in Wheeling. Some choose not to walk on that section of the Wheeling Heritage Trail because they fear that he's going to show up from the ceiling in the form of a rotting corpse covered in green slime, yelling at people to let him rest.
What the hell, Meg?
I know, I was going to skip it, but I figured it's October. It's fine.
Was he a body that fell from the ceiling or something?
No, it actually has little to nothing to do with the tunnel. Of why he just was like, you know what? A tunnel seems a great haunting place. So the railroad company was incorporated in 1850 to locate and construct a railroad projected to run about 76 miles from Wheeling to Greensburg, Pennsylvania. So during the construction, the city granted the railroad company the right of way to do what they need to do. And they said that they decided that the most easily accessible route for the tracks would be straight through a part of land where there was an old town cemetery located on a hill that spread downland, into an uneven bottomland. So they basically decided that, hey, tunneling beneath a cemetery wouldn't really impact anybody above it, right? I don't know what it is with West Virginia and being like, you know what? Under a cemetery is a great place for this tunnel, for this train.
It's not just West Virginia, it's most places.
I get it.
It happened in Indiana too.
I just think it's silly. Like, why are we digging under cemeteries? Come on. Another mark for cremation.
That haunts people, Carl.
So I had to. The Of course, the living people did not necessarily ask the dead and buried what their opinions are for a move and just did it anyway, right? So it included the tunnel forged through the hill beneath the cemetery. And over time, people have known this tunnel to be Hempfield Tunnel 1, Tunnel Green, and Wheeling Tunnel. So it's had a couple different names. And it was not only used by trains, but by travelers from one city to another. So if there wasn't a train coming, people were walking. One of the gentlemen who was walking was a man, a German immigrant named Joseph Ezel. He was 34 years old. He had come to the US in 1865, and he actually assumed the name of John Schaefer to avoid being deported for crimes in Germany. So apparently, our guy's running from the law. He first began employment as a cabinet maker in a furniture factory where he met Joseph Darris, who was also a German woodcarver who was doing work for the Catholic Church in Wheeling and Parkersburg. So we're making friends. And he would take the seemingly likable younger man under his wing and provide him work in both Parkersburg and Wheeling until our first individual, who was changed his name to John, until he found a higher paying job in Parkersburg. So he, like I said, made friends easily, spent money frivolously, was just like, look, I make money, I spend money, it's fine. So our guy's in debt, like a serious amount of debt. He found himself along 6th Street in Parkersburg at the early edge of the morning as the moon began to, find its way back home and was like, look, you guys out of money. Thievery sounds like a good plan. I feel like that's usually not the thing. And he thought he had left all of those kind of habits behind, but tiger doesn't change its stripes, I guess. So he went directly from thievery to murder quite quickly. He murdered his first victim, named Joseph Lionthal, for his watch in Parkersburg. He murdered him and took his watch. Like, guy, that doesn't seem like an even trade to me. And he murdered him with a carpenter's hatchet. So not really kind. And it was like a 4 a.m. Like really definitely getting in on it. He then went ahead and murdered his friend, his close friend, named Rudolph Tuster on December 6th in 1867. So first murder was June, second murder was December. And he killed that man in his home using the same hatchet that he had used for the last guy 6 months ago. So we're hanging on to murder weapons. Doesn't seem smart. And he actually then went and helped at the funeral because it was his friend. So he was like, yes, he murdered him. And then he was like, also, I'm going to be a good guy and like go help and things like that. He would have had, and they call him the hatchet murderer, he would have gotten another victim in January of the next year because he entered the coal company office of John White at about 8 in the evening to pay a debt. And as White was settling into his desk and preparing to like write the receipt down or whatever, our hatchet murderer withdrew the same hatchet from his pocket and started to basically beat the man about the head. Also, we're going to pause real quick because as I'm telling this story, my back door just opened and I don't like that.
God.
So I'm going to shut it real quick.
What the fuck?
That's just horrifying.
Sorry, that was creepy.
Right?
Like I'm telling the story and the dog jumps and I was like, please don't.
Living or dead?
Had to be. I think it's just the wind because the door was unlocked. We're going to go with that because there's definitely nothing living right there. The living thing is here and there. There's a dog, but he hadn't moved.
Josh ordered
So,
McDonald's.
oh, perfect. We love that. So, weirdly, his aim wasn't great. So he's like whacking the guy around the head and the neck with the weapon awkwardly, but none of the blows were enough to like cause significant damage. He figured out this guy's actually going to best me. So he like gets up and like leaves. He like gets up and runs out where he was actually caught and subdued, which we love. But it was not until he wrote out a confession that enforcement authorities became sure that he was the third victim to be tied to the so-called hatchet murders. It taken him 10 days to arrange for a close friend of the name of Alois Ulrich, another individual, to join him working in Wheeling. Like we said, he's good at making friends, and he keeps making friends, then he's offing them. Fun fact, not so fun, this guy dies too.
What the hell?
Yeah, but this guy was actually died in the tunnel, murdered in the tunnel. He was murdered inside Hempfield Tunnel, killed with blows to his temple, arms, and fingers. He was then dragged to the far end and concealed near the east mouth of the tunnel. So his death date was estimated to be about June 29th, 1867, so the next year. Our friend John Sless Ezel became known as the Hatchet Slayer. And he was also an author, because before his execution, he wrote a book, The Life and Crimes of Joseph Ezel, alias John Schaefer, the Parkersburg murderer, published for the benefit of his wife and child, which described his murder spree and himself in great detail. But it was his final victim who would become the most famous, because it is his ghost that is said to haunt that tunnel and apparently come down with amazing dramatization in the form of, a rotting corpse, which is not super nice. So, directly over the area where he had been murdered, a ghastly form emerges on the ceiling, swathed in green slime, certainly gathered from the dead patrons left in the cemetery above, and his own rotting flesh. His arm is typically seen as being extended with missing fingers, because that's kind of what happened to him. And the forefinger of the other hand points desperately at the temple where there's a huge gash in his head. And then basically he groans out loud and telling anyone who's going to hear, let the dead rest, and then he sails away. Luckily for the rest of us, the tracks are gone, and the area has become part of the Wheeling Heritage Trails, and the Wheeling Creek Trail runs on the former rail line through the Hempfield Tunnel. You can access it via Wheeling Dog Park, but I would not do that if I were you, because I really don't want to see Mr. Urork in his post-mortem glory. So yeah, I was totally gonna skip that one, but figured maybe it was appropriate for this.
Normally I would quit eating, but that doesn't disgust me. And normally it does.
I mean, I feel like it was anything worse than hatchet murder, because, like, I don't know, that seems very movie-like. Not that it's good. We don't condone hatchet murder. It's just less scary to me than some of the other forms. But now that we're done with the tunnels, we're going to move on to lunatic asylums.
Why?
Yay! I don't know, because you made me do this. I'm just doing my job. I'm doing what I'm told. So we head to the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, which my note just says, cool, no thanks. It was featured on Ghost Hunters and Ghost Adventurers. I love that I write myself notes that say no thanks, even though I'm the one presenting the information. So it was a sanctuary, which is a super odd word choice for the mentally ill in the 1800s. I love that they call things sanctuaries. There's nothing sanctuarious about this. It was constructed between 1851 and 1881, so it took a long time, and it has the largest hand-cut stone masonry building in North America, which is nice. It was designed to emphasize fresh air, natural light, and the therapeutic power of the environment. So we love that. Every room had a natural light and a breeze, which, like, so far, so good. But come on. So during the Civil War, the partially constructed asylum became an important post, changing hands several times, Union to Confederate back and forth, and as a hospital and barracks. So we already know not great history here. It was created to house 250 patients. It was opened in 1864, and in 1868, there were 200 patients cared for. In 1913, they renamed it to the Weston State Hospital. And in the 1950s, because we're jumping up here, no surprise to anyone, due to need, it started to house more than 2,400 individuals in terrible conditions.
That's how you get haunted.
Right? That's over like 100 times more people than it was built to hold. And I'm telling you, that fresh breeze, everybody has a window thing, not helping with that many people.
Because they had more money going out than they had coming in. And so they're like, oh, we'll just double the bodies so that way we can get more money coming in. But it just increases the income to debt ratio.
Exactly. It closed in 1994 after 130 years of the bad, which is a
I'm
long
sorry,
time.
1994?
1994, 1994. Yep, we were alive then.
What the fuck?
Conditions that were, quote, treated there did run the gamut, from anything from epilepsy to drug or alcohol addiction to female, quote, hysteria. No, thank you. That's called stress and the mental load. So then you had the criminally insane, as well as those who suffered from mental deficiencies. So you also had women who were deserted by their husbands, who were patients. Also those who had asthma, tuberculosis, or even indigestion. Can you imagine having a tummy ache and then being like, you, asylum time?
Like heartburn?
Like Pepto symptoms.
Stomach. Yay,
That's what I'm saying, right? Like, can you imagine? Men admitted their wives simply left them there while they pursued extramarital affairs, and children were sometimes dropped off with their mothers, and orphans were also left at the asylum, all to become wards of the state. Not great news. That's bad news bears. The overcrowding would actually inevitably lead to terrible conditions, as we can all assume, at the asylum, with various reports of unsanitary conditions and a lack of heating and lighting. I assume at nighttime, since there was a lot of lighting built in. So while the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, and I hate the word lunatic asylum, like that just seems so rough, like it's so crass to my body for some reason. But of all of the words I've said today, apparently this is the one that bothers me the most. Apparently it hung its hat on caring for its patients humanely. There were a number of controversial therapeutic, or use therapeutic in quotations, techniques that would be employed throughout the years. If you were lucky, you would spend your time heavily sedated, laudanum or Thorazine, and you would basically just be left in a catatonic state. And that is if you were lucky. Isolation was another less traumatic measure that somebody could hope for. You then have the moderately horrific treatments, including insulin shock therapy and electroshock therapy. With insulin shock therapy, patients were injected with large doses of insulin, purposely inducing daily comas over a period of time. Sorry.
But that's how you kill people, Carl.
Look, Carl was clearly running this place.
Billy Mays hair, but wait, there's more.
Oh, there is. So patients would sometimes suffer seizures before or after the coma, or even during it, and would then become obese after long-term treatment because they kept injecting them with things. And this practice was actually widely used in a lot of hospitals in the US and the UK right up through the 1940s and 50s. So this is not unique to this area. Except for the fact that you would be conscious during the procedure, electroshock therapy might seem like a walk in the park comparatively. I hate all of it. If the mildly horrific medical treatments were not shocking enough, wait until you read about the transorbital lobotomies that were performed. Transorbital lobotomies, all of those syllables.
I absolutely hate it, and I'm gonna just dissociate for the next few seconds.
Yeah, we don't have to talk about what happens. I have it written down. I would rather not say it again, but let's just go with the ice pick theory. Cool?
Yep.
They were a real thing. So they thought that cutting off certain nerves would minimize emotion and therefore stabilize one's mood. And the results, of course, varied. I don't know why they varied. I feel like they were all bad. Some people seemed to improve, where others became vegetables or died. So, staff, guests, and multiple celebrity ghost hunters reported experiencing paranormal activity. They've seen apparitions, they've heard inexplicable sounds or voices, and they have even been our favorite, touched or shoved. And I have a photo. A nice photo. It's just a photo of the outside with all of the windows.
Okay, good.
And send. See, not bad.
Have you ever seen The House on Haunted Hill? The
No, I
movie
don't watch
in
scary
the
things.
90s? It wasn't
I've heard of
that
it.
scary. It was
Look, if it's got a jump scare anywhere in it, I'm out. I barely watch Disney movies.
Rachel, you remember the movie. It's pretty good.
Yeah, so that building definitely doesn't look like it is. Definitely deceiving. It's definitely
Right?
a don't judge a book by its cover because it looks so nice and pretty inside death and horror.
Right? Horrible, terrible things. The fact that they describe some of the treatments as moderately horrific means that there's a scale. I don't need a scale. But we can move on from the asylum because I think that's the only one I have on here because we next head to the abandoned amusement park at Lake Shawnee. Which, I feel
I
like
mean, Lake Shawnee by itself is on Geosaurus's radar because it's haunted hydrology, but there's an amusement park there.
well, yeah, and partially because it's on sacred ground, right? So the Shawnee tribe has a 2,000-year-old history. There was a chief, his name was Chief Cornstalk, which I actually like that name a lot. He was leader of the Shawnee Nation, and he was actually murdered by American militiamen at Fort Randolph during a diplomatic visit in November of 1777. So, like, not a great start to this. It was also an ancient burial ground. So already, like I said, this is sacred space. belonged to others, whatever it is. In the late 1700s, Mitchell Clay was a gentleman who moved his family to the property, and in 1783, two of his children um, ended up being killed. Yeah, one was kidnapped and lost. So, not great odds, right? I just feel like the history so far is not super great. It just sits there abandoned for a while, and in the 1920s, Conley Snidow created the amusement park because he was like, hey, there's a whole bunch of space here, hasn't been used, wonder why. He created an amusement park hoping to bring happiness and joy to a land that should not have been soiled by such uncomfortable things, right? So he was like, cool, we'll make this lovely little amusement park. By 1966, the rides no longer ran and everything faded, but they're still there. They just sat there.
Stop it. I'm going to
Yeah.
look it up right now.
And then in the 1980s, Gaylord White tried to reinvigorate the amusement park, but found Native American artifacts and skeletons while digging, while trying to excavate some of the space, mostly, by the way, belonging to children, and decided to stop land development and leave everything as it was. So, like, we have somebody with a couple smarts in there who was like, I'm finding things that don't belong to me or anyone here. This is clearly a space that was used for something sacred. Let's leave it be. And we actually have two stories of people who attended the amusement park and their experiences. I did my research.
Before you get into that, Rachel, the guy that we follow, the one that does the Haunted America or whatever, that does the abandoned houses that we send each other on Instagram. The pictures that I thought was really cool about the wheels, the carnival wheels. This is that.
We send each other a lot of haunted stuff, so I'm trying to remember. Give me a minute.
I can give you a quick overview. So there's things, like we said, there's things that are left over. You can still like go. I don't like encourage you to do it. But there was a visitor. Her name was Kim, and she went to visit Lake Shawnee on October 26, 2020. So this is just 5 years ago, literally 5 years ago, as of, where we are in the month. They said they had a great time. They were taking pictures. It was like old creepy stuff, very much like old carnival ride, everything broken down, whatever. She gets into the school bus that they have there, and her husband is outside and he takes a picture of her in the school bus. And you can see her there just like sitting. But in the back corner, like the right hand corner, there's a picture of a face just near her. And then there's also a photo of a black figure who's sitting next to her. So no discerning characteristics, just the figure of a human. And she ends her story with a, what a great experience. We will be back. Please don't.
What?
Right? Like, don't do that. And then there was another visitor. Her name is Teresa. And she said, we visited Lake Shawnee today and took dozens of photos, but one stood out from the rest. My 14-year-old son wanted a picture in the driver's seat of the bus. Right? So this is two bus things. So I took several shots, and so did my husband with his phone. Only one picture came up with what looks like a face over my son's left shoulder. It does not appear in any of the other photos. Our guide told us to take multiple shots of the same thing in hopes of catching something, and he was right. Can't help but notice the resemblance in the ghostly picture. So it looks like they do tours, like ghosty tours and things like that. Like, hey, go sit in this bus and take a picture and see if there's something that appears. Please don't encourage things to come sit near me. I don't take public transportation because I don't want to sit next to strangers, dead or living. What is that face?
There's an actual house on the property.
Yeah, because remember, Mitchell Clay moved his family there. Yeah, and had to move away because several of his children didn't make it. We are going to end this with the West Virginia Penitentiary. So we're going to leave the lovely land of the carnival and head to everybody's favorite penitentiaries. You can take a tour, which we will not be doing, but it is open to tours. And it was built in 1866 and opened in 1876, so a 10-year build time. And it was decommissioned, and you're going to love this, 1895. I know. That's a lot of years. I know. I'm just the reporter. Don't kill the messenger. Because then she has to go live at one of these places she talked about. What? I'm just self-preservation here. It is a Gothic architectural style, so like we're talking castle-like, battlements, turrets, the whole thing. The walls are 5 feet thick stone at the bottom and 25-inch thickness of stone the entire way around. So you're not getting in or out. It housed 251 inmates. Many of those inmates actually helped to build the prison itself. And of course, as most things that we've discussed today, was built on Native American burial ground. I know.
I mean, the whole state was Native American burial grounds.
Right? Like the number of tribes that I listed in the beginning that I even couldn't pronounce, they're very populated, right? So there was a place called the Sugar Shack, which was the basement recreation room, which was for gambling, saw drug deals. Also, the R word we don't like, fighting, murder, ran the gamut, right? Visitors, if you go today, visitors report hearing arguing, hushed talking, and ghostly whispering. I hate the whispering. Say it with your chest, alongside cold spots and weird noises.
R word we don't like, relish?
Grape.
I thought my first brain went to racing, but then I was like, oh no, probably not that.
No, we're going for the bad R words.
I was going to say either racist or grapist, and grapist.
Nope, it was drugs and grapes. Not good things down there. So clearly the Sugar Shack was not well manned by security if all these things are happening. It is actually said to be haunted by a maintenance man who spied and reported on prisoners. So we got ourselves a narc. They took out their anger on him in the form of shivs in the bathroom. What a way to go, right?
It's the penitentiary's own version of Moaning Myrtle.
Yes, except he's narking Ned. I don't know. He was a tattletale. Look, you're already in prison. Why draw attention to yourself? You work there. Do your 8 hours and go home. Since we're not finished with that yet, the North Hall, which housed the worst offenders, was like solitary confinement, right? Usually you get into the prison and then you become one of the worst offenders and then they stick you in the North Hall. One of those individuals was a biker named Danny, and he was stabbed in the eye by another inmate and died of that wound. So, not great there. We have another inmate whose name was William Red Snyder, who's known by Red. He was convicted of murdering his parents and playing puzzle pieces with their body parts. And what? I don't know how to say it any better.
Trying to connect four?
I don't know. Jigsawing? I have no idea. He was disliked by tons of inmates, obviously, and involved in several fights. In the end, he was actually attacked in front of his cell and stabbed 37 times. So, did not make it. The hall has been the site of many strange events, including photographic anomalies, equipment malfunctions, and the sound of cell doors banging when no one is there. People typically report feeling super uncomfortable, and Red Snyder's cell is said to be particularly haunted, his ghost leering from the shadows at anyone brave enough to approach the cell that served as both his home and his place of death. By 1986, great year by the way, 2,000 inmates and virtually no security just bounced about the place all willy-nilly. So there was a lack of security, a lack of individuals who were working there, and just a bunch of people. There was a riot on January 1st. Maybe it was short-staffed because of the holiday. We don't know. And 20 prisoners actually attacked a captain, 5 officers, and a goods service worker, and 3 inmates were killed. So not great, and it still took them almost another 8 years to shut the thing down. Actually, 9 years to shut the thing down. In the end, 94 men were executed in the prison over the course of its lifetime, 85 by hanging, and these hangings were open to the public.
So they were public executions.
Yes. In 1949, electrocution replaced hangings, and there was a building called the Death House. Like, ew, must we? No originality there. It is no longer standing, but strange lights can be seen in the night. So this penitentiary lasted for 119 years, and it's ripe for haunting, right? 36 people were unalived due to homicide, and way too many passed just by all the things.
With all of the research that we've done, I'm not laughing at the situation. I'm laughing at my funny husband. Um, with all the research that we've done on the individual states that we've done, 90% of the penitentiaries that were created in between the 17, let's just do bulk estimate, 1700s to the beginning of the 1900s, there was no health care. There was no dental care. There was no mental care. And I mean, like now it's even a fight to get medical health for mental health in these prisons. But now it's getting a lot better because now they actually have hospital wards. Like it doesn't matter if you have cancer, you're going to jail. They have a cancer treatment ward in most jails. And I mean, this stuff pisses me off because it's like, well, they're sick. It doesn't matter. They committed the crime. They can do the time.
It's just, I just feel like it's all around bad. Not West Virginia in general, just in
Right.
the system, right?
Yeah. I mean, I like the Norwegians and the Swedes for their prison systems. Have you looked at their prison systems?
I don't plan to go to prison, so no.
Okay. So they get great meals. So, think of the food and the healthcare system for kids in school. Your video just got clear for me on my side, Rachel. It's probably been clear this whole time for all of our watchers, but for me, it was pixelated and you looked like part of Minecraft.
Oh no, she's looked great to me.
She always looks great. But
She
besides
does.
the point, so Sweden and Norway actually have this great system installed over there for their prison systems. And it's not lax or anything like that, maximum security and stuff like that. But they get 3 square meals, they get snacks, they get outside time, they get trained to do actual activities that they can do outside of jail if it's not like schmurder or grape or anything
Our
like that.
hatchet man, yeah.
And when it comes to stuff like that, it's they actually get medical care, they get mental health care, they see therapists, they have group therapy, they have art therapy. And I'm just sitting here looking from what it is now to what it could be, vastly different. But of course, United States, I will be on that soapbox all day. I'm just going to step off.
I think it's a valid soapbox. I mean, people are people. The way that people were treated for both mental issues and crimes and things like that, people are still people. I don't know. It's a hard line to walk. But that does take us through all of the West Virginia that I did right. There's so much history there. There's so many things. But those are just the few more haunted happenings that I found about the state. And I can say I don't know that I will be visiting any of them. Maybe Mothman. Maybe I'll go, consensually booty slap a statue. Who knows?
I drove through there and it's wonderful. It's a really great town. I stopped to eat and I was like, I'm not probably going to be by here anytime soon. So I stopped in there because I was like, might as well. I'm glad I did. But now I know more information about the towns, you know.
Maybe stay away from the tunnels. That seems like a appropriate action.
Safe bet.
Definitely avoiding the tunnels.
Yeah, I'm like not a tunnel fan anyway, so I don't think you're gonna find me like. Have you seen the train guy on TikTok who just like wears the thing on his head and follows train? He gets really excited about trains. I'm not a train guy for tunnels.
You're not a train autistic. You're a book and history autistic.
Sure, but not tunnels. So we will avoid those. But thank you for letting me share in my weird way about my neighbor state.
Thank you for doing the research on it. That was not what I was expecting. And I loved it. It was great. It was good fun. I will not be visiting that state.
It's fine. It's got some great wineries and like awesome views and good hiking, but also like I'm not really a hiker. This body doesn't say hike. So,
This body says all you can eat sushi.
I love sushi.
You can drink all the wine for me because I'm sober. So you and Rachel and Emily will drink the wine for
Yeah,
me.
but you can still
And
go and see the scenery. They have crackers and chips.
We'll drink all the butts of wine.
Yes, all the all of the butts, which are not actually butts.
Don't worry about that right now, Catherine.
Squirrel. So that's West Virginia. I loved the history. Thank you. What is it with 90% of the history that we're doing involves unearthing native burial grounds?
Possibly because we weren't here first.
Because colonization and white
Also,
people.
notice that their people, their dead, are not blowing up like they are in Paris. You know, like we talked about some of those things where like they didn't know how to handle their dead, but the native dead are just staying where they belong. Might be onto something.
Still don't.
It was also because the dead were also white people commingling with other white people. So they're like, oh, it's just one of us again. Okay.
I mean, I'm getting it. I just say that it seems like the native people were a little bit more respectful in how they treated their dead people. And
It's
those
true.
dead people didn't feel the need to posthumously return.
It's true.
Merely an observation.
Well, that being said, that is our episode for today. Unless you have anything further you would like to add to the Haunted October.
No, I think you've heard enough of me today.
I will never say no to Meg time.
Samesies.
I mean, you may want to reevaluate that sometime, but I appreciate the nod right now.
Well, as Emily always says,
Do the stupidest of shit.
Please don't.
Nope, we're not setting up carnivals on native burial ground. That seems like stupid shit.
Indeed, it does.
seems like something Emily might want to do, but I think she's respectful enough to not do it. Stay feral,
Bite the hand.
and we'll see you guys next time.
Okay, bye.
That's all for this episode. Stay feral, and we'll see you party possums next time.